Awesome. And going live on Instagram. Cool. Hey, I'm Olajide Paris for MakeCinematicMusic.com, and today I'm going to talk about my top picks for orchestral sample libraries for beginner composers at a few different price points. Before I get started, I do want to let you know about my free composers gear guide, which you can get at www.makecinematicmusic.com for recommendations on everything from DAWs and sample libraries, which we'll talk about today, to headphones and other gear just for composers. Okay, let's jump in. So this list of recommendations is broken down by price point. And keep in mind, this is by no means a complete, all encompassing guide to all sample libraries ever made. These are all in one, meaning you buy these and you get a full orchestra. And I'm just going to give my personal recommendations at a few different price points. So let's start at the under $500 category. At under $500, my personal pick is the Orchestra Complete 2 by Zonuscore and Best Service or Best Service Zonuscore. Full disclosure, Zonuscore is one of my biggest clients, and I have worked on several installments to the orchestra, so I am slightly biased, but I also do own many orchestral sample libraries and have produced many others, and so I think I'm giving a pretty fair shake to this. But it's going for about $459. I think it's on sale now for $399 or even less. But what's great about the Orchestra Complete 2 is that it's, first of all, single mic, which means it runs very well on a laptop because it's got a really nice small footprint. There is only one mic, though, like I mentioned, which means that you don't have all of the mix options that you normally do, but they spent a lot of time to get the sound just right. So when you open it up, every patch sounds incredible, just right out of the box. So that is a really great thing about the orchestra. There's legato for just about every instrument. If you have the complete version, Complete 2, there's a ton of extended techniques and additional instruments like muted brass, and it's really the most complete orchestra at its price point, and it really doesn't have a rival at its price point because of all of the additional things it has, from things like string effects and extended string techniques and advanced string techniques. And with the brass, you're getting things like muted brass and chimbassi and things that you don't typically get for a lower tier library. It runs in the free Contact player, meaning if you haven't purchased a full retail version of Contact, you don't have to. It will work in the free version of Contact. Now, the next library in the $500-ish range that I recommend is the BBC Symphonic Orchestra Core by Spitfire. Now, like the Orchestra Complete 2, BBC Orchestra Core is a single mic position. It's been curated down from a multi-mic version, but for the $500 version, you get a single mic. Now, the nice thing is that if you do upgrade to the professional version, which is we'll talk about later, you can jump between versions, which is really cool. So if you have a laptop that you work on, I'm just going to plug my laptop in here. There we go. So let's get this situated here. Oops, this is obscuring the view. Okay, cool. So what I was saying is that the nice thing about the Spitfire player and the BBC Orchestra Core is that if you have a laptop with less resources than your desktop, you can run the library on your laptop on the core version, and then if you have the professional version at home and you want to run that on a computer that's beefier and has more RAM and more hard drive space, then you can do that. Obviously, it's by Spitfire, so it's going to sound really good. Doesn't have quite as much content as the Orchestra Complete, but it is the BBC Orchestra, which is one of the biggest names in the world of orchestras and symphonies. So that's about $508, and that plays in the free version of the Spitfire player. Or sorry, the free Spitfire player. All versions of that are free. The next category, and there's a pretty big price jump after this, is under $1,000, under or around $1,000. So the first recommendation I have in that category is the Berlin Orchestra by Berklee and Orchestral Tools. Now, that is essentially a one mic version of the entire Berlin series of products, which Orchestral Tools released over a period of several years. And it's pretty much the cream of the crop in terms of the quality and the sound that you can get. Pretty extensive articulation sets for every instrument, particularly with the brass and with the woodwinds. Their woodwinds, the Berlin woodwinds, have been known for years as being among some of the best out there, and not to speak of their brass, which is great too. So this curated version was created in collaboration with Berklee to ensure that composers working with limited resources in terms of computing power, like a laptop, would be able to have access to a really high quality orchestra on the go. So check that out. That's the Berlin Orchestra by Berklee and Orchestral Tools. And that plays in the free sign player, which you can download from Orchestral Tools site. And that is $960-ish. The next library, right around the $1,000 mark, is Cinesymphony Core by Cinesamples. And that's going for $950. Now, this is basically the main parts of the Cinesamples collections, and they haven't done any curating to them. It's just Cine Strings Core, Cine Brass Core. Excuse me, my battery still isn't charging. Cine Winds Core. Just a moment here. Aha, it's not plugged in. Well, that would help. There we go. Okay, so let's go over that again. So the Cinesymphony Core Bundle, Cinesymphony Core Bundle by Cinesamples, Cine Strings Core, Cine Brass Core, Cine Winds Core, and Cine Perk. Now, all of those, with the exception of Cine Perk, have additional modules that you can buy. For the brass, there's at least 3: Cine Brass Pro, Descant Horn, and something else that I can't think of at the moment. And for the strings, there's a Cine Strings Solo, I think it's called, and then there's the Cine Strings Runs, which are an additional collection. For the woodwinds, there's the Monster Low Winds, and then there's Cine Winds Pro that you can buy in addition to that. But for $950, it's a pretty great deal. You get all of the essential instruments that you need. It does work with a free contact player, so you don't have to purchase contact for that. Okay, moving up. The next tier is the under $2,000 tier. And in that category, we have BBC Symphonic Orchestra Professional. And basically, this is just the full-fledged version of the core. So you get all of the microphone positions, of which I think there are 9 to 11. And you get all of the articulation, so you get more instruments, you get more control over the sound that you want. Of course, it is a much bigger footprint, so you have to have additional hard drive space and more RAM. You're going to want more RAM for that. And that's coming in right around $1,582. And I'm sorry, $1,130, and that runs in the free Spitfire player. The next library in that under $2,000 range is the the Symphony Complete by Spitfire. This is another Spitfire product, and that is coming in at about $1,582. Now, what this is their original BML, or British Modular Library, that then got rebranded as just Symphonic. And this is their brass, their percussion, their strings, and their harp. And this is a 3-mic version of those libraries. So you have a reasonable amount of control over the library, and you have pretty much all the basic core sounds that you need. Obviously, their full versions of their products can have 5 or 7 or even more microphones, but for most people, you don't need more than 3. And if you're, especially if you're a beginner, that would be a great place to start if you have that amount of money to invest. Moving on to the final tier, this is the $2,000 and up range, so between $2,000 and $3,000. So the first product in that category is going to be the Symphony Complete Professional, again by Spitfire. So this is the exact same collection that I mentioned. It's the strings, it's the brass, it's the winds, it's percussion. But for the strings, brass, and winds, these are the professional versions. So I think they're up to 7 mic positions each, which gives you even more flexibility to craft the sound that you want. The percussion is the same because they have a really, I don't want to say old because I don't want to make it sound like there's something wrong with it, but the percussion is a different product line than the strings, brass, and winds, and it hasn't been brought up to date. So it has the number of mic positions it has, and it's the same percussion library throughout all tiers of the bundle. But it is a great collection, and that's going for $22.60, and that plays in the free contact player. The next product in that price range is the Cinesymphony Complete Bundle, which goes for $22.50. And this is everything that Cinesamples makes from a symphonic point of view. So this is the strings core, the strings pro, the strings runs, winds core pro, monster woodwinds, brass core and pro, and the desk and horn, and the Cineperk library. So, I mean, that's pretty much all you would need if you choose to go that route. And then lastly is the Berlin series main collections, which at the time of making this video, which is December 12th, I'm sorry, December 3rd, 2021, there's still a sale. So these you can grab for a pretty nice discount if you happen to catch this video in time. But these are all of the main collections for the Berlin Orchestra that have been bundled into their sign player. So these libraries were originally all released in Contact, in the free version of Contact, and they've recently been ported over to Orchestral Tool's own software, which is the sign player, which is free. So this is basically the professional version of the Berklee Orchestra that I mentioned earlier, which had just the 1 mic versions. The Berlin series main collections for sign player is all of their libraries with all of the mic positions, the core versions, of course. There aren't the extensions. They haven't gotten around to porting those yet. And that's going for around $21.47 USD. Although, like I said, right now, at the time of making these videos, which is early December 2021, you can get those for a nice discount. Okay, so those are my top recommendations for orchestral sample libraries for beginners that are all in one. Obviously, this is a huge topic. I could go on forever about each library. I could do a single video on each library, but that should give you some places to start from in terms of where to look if you're looking to purchase an all-in-one package of orchestral samples rather than wanting to piece together strings and brass and winds from different collections, which you can do, but is another path. Maybe I'll do a video on that. If you'd like to see me do a video on my favorite strings, winds, brass, and percussion libraries a la carte, please leave a comment. And if enough of you want that, I will make that video. For now, I'm Olajide Paris of MakeCinematicMusic.com. Before I go, I do want to remind you, please do download my free guide, my free composer's gear guide at MakeCinematicMusic.com. And in that guide, I go a little bit more in detail about my recommendations for orchestral sample libraries, as well as things like headphones, monitors, interfaces, even computers for composers. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.